With me here today is Mr. Peter Nearman. Peter's a real estate investor out of the Lifestyles membership. But what's interesting and different about Peter is that Peter's got a few more challenges than some of us. And I've asked Peter to come on here today to share his story with us because he is one of my real inspirations in life. And I have to tell you, Peter's been many times in the last couple of years that I've had all kinds of things go wrong with my life, mostly physical. And every time I'm sitting there just going, man, this is terrible, I think of you and go, no, it's okay. It's absolutely nothing wrong. The fact that, they cut this part of my body off, that part of my body off, they sewed it back on, at least it's back on. This doesn't work, okay, they fixed it. I'm dying of staph, okay, they solved it, they cured it. Then I was dying of cancer, okay, they cured that. And each time, you go into these things, you go, oh my gosh. Peter, I meet people their whole life. Something happens, destroys their life. It ruins it. They can't drive a car ever again, or they can't ever hold down a job ever again. They can't. It destroys a relationship. They end up broke, bankrupt, no relationship, lose their wife, lose their kids, lose their friends, and they're destroyed. And they have 1/100th of the challenges that you've had. So as an inspiration, I hope to get this out to everybody out there, and I hope they keep this recording of you, Peter, by their bedside. I want it to be kept somewhere on their phone where anytime they go to get down, they just click this on and go, okay, wow, that's an inspiration. So Peter, why don't we start the story out by telling everybody what your life was like before the catastrophe that put the challenges in front of you.
All right, Del. Thanks for having me on. I always appreciate talking to you and having the opportunity to reach out to people and hopefully inspire them, like you said. Before the situation that I'm in now, I grew up, normal childhood. We were kind of poor, and my mom and dad both worked. My mom took the bus to work because we only had one car. And I left home when I was 16 and started out, like a lot of people, just, trading hours for money, and did that for quite a few years. Then I figured out that was kind of a rough way to go. So I left the restaurant business and I went back to college and I went into nursing. And that was very rewarding, but it turned out kind of being the same thing. It was trading time for money. And I went on vacation with my family, and we went to Hawaii.
Okay, Peter, I'm going to interrupt you here because in my brain, I have this segmented into a couple segments that I think that I want to get to. So before you get out of this segment of your life, let's talk. Let's share deep stuff. What did life mean to you at that point? I mean, you didn't have this great future, or did you have this great futuristic set of goals, or were you just living in the day? Tell us what life was like before, because where I'm trying to go with this is none of us know if we're going to get hit by a car tomorrow. What are we thinking? Where's your mind at before this catastrophe happened? Can you share that with us?
Sure. Honestly, I was working probably 60 to 80 hours a week was pretty normal. And I had 3 small children and one older child who was out on his own by then. And I loved my job, and I did the 401k, and I kind of was working to retire someday, like most of America. I was thinking, if I just keep doing my job and I keep working hard, I'm going to end up retired when I'm 65 and life will be good. But on a day-to-day basis, I loved what I did. It felt rewarding, and I enjoyed it, but I missed my family. I missed, being with them, and I knew that I had 2 weeks a year of vacation. And so it was really special to have time to go on vacation with my family. And so I looked forward to vacations, and I suppose in the big picture, I looked forward to retiring someday.
So at this point, there's no way no way you could possibly imagine that this long-awaited vacation could end up changing your life forever.
Oh, there is no way. I mean, I'm in my 30s. I'm physically in great shape. I have a young family. And, this is kind of what you focus on, going on vacation with your family. And, you know, day one, I wake up in the morning and go out to do some cardio. And while I'm out swimming, the ocean's nice and flat. My family comes out, just to hang out in the morning with me on the beach. And I'm done swimming. I probably swam for 20 minutes. I stand up and I'm walking back into the shore, and I get hit from behind by a rogue wave. I'm probably in water just above my knees. And as I fall, my head hits the shore break and it snaps my neck. And there I am in the water, laying flat on my back, looking up, and I'm probably, I don't know, a foot under the water. And I knew the second that my head hit that I had broken my neck. Experiencing trauma and the fact that I couldn't feel my body anymore, I knew that second that that was bad.
Now,
And
were
I
you
thought,
were you in shock at that moment, or were you clearly aware of what was going on?
no, very clear. As a matter of fact, I looked up and I thought, oh man, this sucks because I'm going to drown. And I didn't even factor in the fact that, I broke my neck. I just thought, I'm going to drown. But the ocean pushed me in, and I went all the way into the shore on my back, and I'm laying there, and I thought, oh, at least I didn't drown. I can't move, but I can breathe, so this is probably okay. And then the next wave comes in, picks me up, and floats me back out into the water.
Whoa!
Now I'm laying there like this, thinking, okay, this does suck. I am going to drown. And I can see the air, 18 inches above me, and I just can't move to get to it. And my wife at the time came running out, screaming, and tried to pick me up and hold me above the water so that I could breathe. And I was too big for her to hold up. And so she's screaming, and a group of football players that were running along the beach heard her screaming, and they ran out into the water, and they helped pick me up, and they carried me in and laid me down on the sand to call 911. From that point, I really realized that, okay, life was going to be different. And I remember them taking me to the hospital, and I was in the ICU. And then I woke up, it seemed like a couple hours later, but it was a day, and I had on a halo, which is a metal ring around your head that they screw into your skull and strap it to your chest to keep my vertebrae separated. And what had happened is when I hit, it actually took my spine and moved it next to the spine below it. So they had to go in through my neck and do some surgeries to put it back in line to see if they could help it. And that destroyed part of my ability to breathe. At some point, they ended up popping one lung. I couldn't eat, so I was on a breathing machine, put a feeding tube in me. After about 3 weeks, they decided this was the best it was going to get, and they wanted to ship me back to Phoenix, and I would spend the rest of my days in a skilled nursing facility on a breathing machine fed through a tube.
Peter, I've gone through a lot of operations, a lot of stuff where I'm laying in the hospital and they've got me tubed up, completely like you're talking about. And it's just, the only way I could survive it was they had me medicated. They had stuff that was stronger than morphine, Demerol, you name it. They were hitting me with it in a drip every hour, 2 hours, whatever they could give it to me. Were you medicated through all that?
So what they would do is they would medicate me after surgery, and then they'd bring me up to see my neurostatus and to try to get me to breathe on my own. So they had to take me off all the medicine to try to get me to be able to wean off of the vent. So off and on, yes and no. They tried to control my pain because unfortunately at that point, a lot of the nerve pathways that went through were just the ones that registered pain, not the ones that registered movement. Mm-hmm. And so, I was in a significant amount of pain. But I was very aware of what was going on. Um, but luckily, having been in the medical business, I had some friends that were doctors and some nurses, and they did a bunch of research back in Phoenix to figure out what the best spinal cord rehab place was at the time. They found a place in Colorado called Craig, and they ended up having me flown from Maui all the way out to Colorado. And they took up a collection, and a bunch of doctors, one of them, my friend, paid for the flight because the insurance wouldn't do it. And they sent me to rehab in Colorado.
I think the interesting point in that is, and you actually said this, but you said it so quickly and with so little emotion that I don't think you're actually telling your story adequately. And I've told you this before. I wanted to get you on tape one time telling the story with the real emotion that you felt, but you're such a positive guy, you don't like to go back there. Either you don't want to remember because it's too painful, or you just don't want to, you don't want sympathy. But my God, what's it like when a doctor walks in and says, there's nothing more we can do for you, Peter? This is it. This is the quality of life. You're laying in bed, you can't breathe, you're on a breather, you're on a feeding tube. I mean, what did that feel like mentally for you, to that guy to give up on you like that?
Yeah, mentally, it was very difficult. Especially, I don't know if it makes it better or worse, that I had extensive medical knowledge. And I knew that the situation that I was in was not good. I mean, I was very aware that the odds of me having any kind of meaningful recovery were pretty small. But I also knew that if you give up, then that's what you get. And if you don't continue to move forward, you just shrivel up and die. And, you know, having been a bodybuilder and you're a bodybuilder, you know that you never stay in the same place. You're either getting bigger and lifting and eating, lifting heavy weights, trying to grow, or you're dieting and trying to shrink to get into that next show. But not at any point are you staying the same. So I knew that if I gave up, that moment was the best moment it was ever going to be. And from there, it was just going to decrease, and I was going to willow into nothing. And I wasn't ready to let that be my story. I wasn't ready to have somebody tell my kids in 10 years, yeah, it was sad, and you know there was nothing we could do, and he shriveled into nothing. You want to go visit dad in a home.
As we get into this further, Peter, we're going to get into how philanthropic you are as a human being. But I have to go back to the story, and you know, I've got my story when I used to get beat up every day going to school, and then my cousin came to live with us, and all of a sudden nobody beat me up anymore, you know, because there he was protecting me. We all need that angel, right? That from somewhere to come down. What was your feeling like when these people put up that money to take you to this rehab place? What did it mean to you, and what has it meant to you since then?
I was absolutely blown away. I mean, it was no small feat to try to get a patient for cash out of a hospital onto a fixed-wing aircraft, fly them across the ocean, and then get them onto a helicopter to fly them to a hospital and put them into a private rehab. I mean, I was blown away by their generosity. I'm not a big crier by any means. Like, I don't feel that it does any good, but it seriously brought tears to my eyes. And I think that was another reason why I wouldn't give up, because these people spent all this time, money, and effort on me, and I wanted to show them that I appreciated it, and the best way I could do that was to try to succeed.
So your progression as you got there, I assume hard work, rehab, diligence on your part, you started to get certain parts of your life back. Why don't you kind of walk us through, you know, minor detail, how parts of you came back to where you could start to function?
Okay, so I hadn't eaten in probably a month, and it was close to Thanksgiving, and you could smell the food in the hospital, and it was driving me nuts. And so they blended up a Thanksgiving meal and put it in this like thinner than puree stuff. And I tried to drink it through a straw just to get it in my mouth. So so I could taste it. It was so disgusting. And from that point on, I was like, I want to eat. And so I had to go through this therapy where they shocked my neck to build the muscles back up so I could swallow without it going into my lungs. And at that point, I was still on a breathing machine. I had this huge hole in my neck where the tube had permanently come out of my neck. So I went through that for a while, and finally I could swallow. That was a huge event. And then I was working on breathing, where they would have me breathe for an hour and then put me back on the machine until you could build up your muscles. And that was huge when I could get off the vent. That was a big one.
You know what this tells me, Peter? We as human beings have no perception of the value of the little things in our life until you get to that level where eating is something you've waited to do. And I've been like at the hospital last time. They had me down for like 7 days where I didn't eat. And man, food, just the taste of food. And you were out for all that time. I'm just 7 days and I'm dying, right? So I understand food and breathing. I can't even imagine. The feel of grasping for air is one of the scariest feelings there is in life.
It is.
And because, wow, for whatever reason, but you're getting this back. It's an incredible, and again, and to me, it's inspiring, Peter. I hope you appreciate that I'm trying to use this as inspiration for people to say, look at what this man went through and the little wins that will end up the end of this story as we get done here today to be this tremendous change in life. To me is what it's all about. It's the incremental thing of how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? And
Exactly.
You fought it. You got those two. So you can now breathe. They got you some food. What was the next step in your recovery? Or I wouldn't call it recovery. I'm sorry. Let's call it your improvement. Rehabilitation. There we go. Good word.
At this point, I couldn't use my left arm at all. Anything pretty much on my left side didn't work. And my right arm my shoulder would continually pop out of socket. So it would be exceptionally painful. And the range of motion, I couldn't raise my arm even this high. And I don't have triceps. So it's kind of funny when I finally been able to lift my arm up like this. If I get any higher than this, then not having triceps, the arm falls. And you can't stop it. So I would like hit myself. It was funny. And one of the first things I did is I was learning how to eat, to feed myself. And so they strap a fork to my hand and you reach out and grab something. And so I grabbed a strawberry and I went to go eat it and my tricep wasn't there and I didn't realize it. And I stabbed myself in the fork with a strawberry. And what actually happened is the tech was laughing at me, the person that was trying to train me. So it was kind of funny.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing too, man. It's a funny story.
Well, I mean, you either laugh or you cry. There's only two things that you can do. It's really the only way you can go about it. But so, actually, not just being able to eat to swallow, that was a biggie. But I hate having people help me. And so I really wanted to be able to eat feeding myself. That was huge to me. And it's weird, the things, when you have nothing, one little thing is a big deal. So I don't know if everybody does it the same way, but those are the little things that popped in my mind. Like, I don't want to just have somebody feed me. I want to be able to feed myself. So that was the next big achievement that I went after. So,
it's funny, Pete, because I did a radio show today about freedom. And I said, how do you define freedom? And, when you really break it down to the most minute levels, freedom is the freedom to be able to take care of yourself. And you go, I remember when I was in there and I had my intestines taken out and, I have a colostomy sac and the nurse goes, do you want me to take you to the bathroom? And I go, no. And you're thinking, boy, what is it, that drives a person to want those really small personal freedoms back again, right? So much so that everything else just sort of takes a back seat. You're like, yeah, forget about how good my hair looks today, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It takes vanity right out of the equation. because, being a bodybuilder, you kind of, it's part of it. I hate to admit it, but you're happy with how your body looks and stuff. I'll tell you what, you don't eat for 30 days, 60 pounds of muscle, gone. That's a great diet. Just don't eat.
I tell people that all the time, man. When I had cancer, I lost 80 pounds. And I go, man, I've got the best diet for you in the world. Let's go get you some cancer, right?
That's what I'm talking about. You appreciate every little thing. And food tastes so good. Stuff that you would just, take for granted before.
So let's move on. This is great growth. The rehabilitation's coming along. What about the ability to physically start to control your body? How did that come back? It looks like now you've got pretty good control of the equipment you use, but you had to get some muscular control to be able to even use the equipment, right?
Right. So every day, I would wake up in the morning, and after you do your normal stuff, I would go down to PT, and they would do physical therapy with you, where they try to help you try to recover some of the muscles that would come back next if they were ever to come back. But they help you learn to work out so you can build the muscle that you still have, because you're really going to need it. And so you do that, but then in the afternoon, you go to OT, which is occupational therapy. And that doesn't mean get a job. That means survive in your surroundings. So they literally teach you how to use a fork, how to hold a fork, how to get a fork into your brace. And the littlest things that you don't even think about, like I don't have thumbs, so you can't hold a sandwich. And it was so frustrating not to be able to hold a sandwich. So you just figure out little ways, they teach you little tricks to get around the obstacles in your life. And it's like anything else. Like you gave us the road to figure out how to invest in real estate, get passive income. And they would give me the road on how to move stuff around on the plate so you can use it to bump into the other stuff to get it in your mouth. Because they had seen it before. And I had no idea. I took it for granted. And so it really was about people that had already been somewhere teaching me how to get there.
Excellent. Now, for people that have not met you yet, and hopefully they'll all get a chance to meet you at the next expo or wherever you happen to be at what event, for those people, share with them now. We fast forward, you've got unlimited mobility as an individual now. It amazed me when you told me that you drove in on your own truck, that you drive your own vehicle. And I guess you probably have to tell everybody what limitations you have physically so for them to understand, but you're in a wheelchair, right?
Right.
And you've only got partial use of one arm, and the other arm is even more limited?
Yeah, my left side is significantly smaller than my right. And I finally got a little bit of left shoulder back and some bicep. I don't have anything from the bicep down, no thumbs, fingers, forearms, wrists, any of that. From here down, I'm wearing a chest strap to help hold me in this wheelchair. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a plastic C that comes around me and straps me into it. And so I only have balance from about here up. And so breathing, I don't have, the muscles that help you breathe. So I use what muscles I have left to kind of force air in and out. I've trained myself to do that.
Is that what the leaning forward is? You're pushing your lungs up against the back of the chair? Is that what you're doing?
I push my chest up against this chest strap to take a deep breath to speak for any amount of time.
Wow.
Or else I'd have to breathe and then say a word, and that's how it all started.
Wow, that's amazing. So you're driving. Tell us now how. I love this story. You told me the story before, but I don't know if it's chronologically correct. But if you're going to get there, get down somewhere through the chronological order to where you demanded to drive. That one made me laugh when you told that story.
So I went to this rehabilitation shop where they had vans that they converted so that people with disabilities could drive them. And I was like, I want to be able to drive. I haven't driven in 3 years. I have small children. Every time I want to go to the grocery store, I have to call someone to come and pick me up, take me and my kids to the store to go grocery shopping. It's you're so indebted to everybody, and it's hard to live like that. So I'm like, I'm gonna drive. So I went down there, and they showed me this van that was so hooked up. I mean, it was $80,000 worth of stuff, and you had to drive with a little joystick, like the one on my wheelchair. And I was like, that's not even the cost of the van. That's just for the computer. And I was like, I cannot afford that. There's no way. Like, show me the one where the guy in the wheelchair drives with the levers and stuff. So they showed it to me, and I watched somebody do it. And I figured out, okay, these are the muscles I'm going to have working to do it. And I figured I've probably got enough stuff working. I just got to get it stronger. So I left there, and it took about 9 months to a year. And I designed a workout. Me and another physical therapist that was a bodybuilder with me before, he let me use his physical therapy gym, and we designed a workout. And I got strong enough to where I could drive with hand controls. And it went from the conversion costing $80,000 to $100,000 down to probably around $20,000. And so it was feasible to do on an old van. So I bought an old used van, and I had it converted, and off I go with this old Dodge Caravan, driving, and people would look at me kind of like you did. Oh my God, you drive. And I don't know that they were thinking that's a compliment or I shouldn't be on the
road. Where did you get your license in a Cracker Jack box, right?
Exactly. And I had to go to the state and have all these forms filled out. And then I had to have another driving test. And a certified occupational therapist that specializes in driving sign off that I could drive.
Wow.
It took 40 hours of lessons on top of what I already did that I had to pay for out of pocket to be able to get a driver's license.
It's amazing. So now you can drive. Tell us now how you decided that you were going to be interested in lifestyles. I mean, I don't know, maybe should we touch base a little bit on your financial situation
Sure.
coming out of all this? How do you support yourself? And then from that, what were you thinking financially for yourself, your family, and your legacy at that point? And, you know, that's sort of a natural progression into this stuff.
Okay, so right at the beginning when I was in Colorado, I was concerned about money, but I had some disability insurance, and it partially paid some of my salary, probably a little bit less than 40%. And so I had some money coming in, and I had a 401k, but I had some savings, and a bunch of people chipped in to, help me along the way. And so I started when I got back to Phoenix, really focusing on surviving financially. And I didn't really have a plan, and those first couple of years were pretty tough. And I ended up getting divorced. My ex, didn't feel like it was her destiny to be married to someone in a wheelchair. So it's neither here nor there, but now I'm divorced. So I have no other income but mine. And I have time on my hands, so I'm listening to the radio. And that's when I hear lifestyles for the first time. And I start thinking, okay, passive income. And I already at that point, since I was younger, I had bought a house, and I would let my sister live in it. And then I would rehab it, and then I would sell it. And that process would take a year and a half. And I'd make a little bit of money, and I'd put her in the next house. So I had a little experience in real estate, but in no way the correct way. I mean, I didn't lose money, but I made so many mistakes. So I thought, this is probably a good idea. And that's how I got interested in lifestyles.
So you heard about us on the radio. How did you initiate the information at Lifestyles? Did you take it over the internet, or did you come to one of the seminars?
Well, I'm an extremely skeptical person, and I knew that I probably had one more shot at this with what little money I had left. And so I actually went to Texas and I went to the expo. And I was trying to kind of look behind the curtain and see what the scam was, or, well, yeah, I mean, there definitely had to be some catch that I wasn't seeing, or, it was an infomercial or whatever, but I was like, it's got to be too good to be true kind of thing. So I went down to Texas, went to the expo, actually met you in the bar, after the road trip. And I said hi to you, and we actually talked for a few minutes. And I was like, wow, this is a real guy, like a real live person, not a celebrity, not a holier than thou kind of attitude. You were just a regular guy. And that was what actually really helped. I was like, wow, it wasn't, makeup and mirrors. It was real.
Mm-hmm.
And I met a bunch of people, and they already were members, and they were absolutely, going out of their way to help me. Like, no, really, listen, this is what we did. And it really made me think, I got to do this. And so I ended up doing the 2-day online. I went back to Phoenix. I called. I asked if there were any members. I joined up. There were actually 3 people. It was me and 2 other guys in all of Phoenix. And I was like, all right, well, I believe in what they're doing in Texas. And if I have to do it in Texas, then I have to do it in Texas, because, I believe in this. So that's how I got started.
Well, it's interesting because I laughed. You say there's 3 people. I heard the other day you had a meeting with in excess of 300 people out there. So things have changed quite a bit. When you came out of the 2-day, what was your aha moments? What were the epiphanies, the light bulbs that went off in your head and said, this is what I need to do?
So, like I said, I had already been doing a single family home. And so I thought, oh my gosh, this is a much better way to do what I'm already doing. Forget about the apartments and all that. I mean, I know most people say that was their moment, but my moment was definitely, all right, I already have experience in this, but it could be done so much better. And so I really was on fire about single family homes. And I knew that the multifamily home was a good idea. Apartments were probably a faster way to get there, but still a little bit of skepticism, honestly, in the back of my mind. And I thought, I know that if something goes wrong, I know how to deal with single family homes. And so that is what kind of set me on my path.
So you went out and bought 5 single family houses.
Yeah.
More expensive than our model. I was noting your resume, and the houses are way more expensive than our model. Tell us what you were trying to accomplish. Were you trying to accomplish capital gains out of this? Is that the goal, or was there cash flow involved also, or what?
There was cash flow involved, and the area that I ended up picking, the houses were more expensive, but I knew from research that the city was growing in that area. And it was 2016. So, the banks were loaning money again, and people were just starting to feel okay about buying houses in Phoenix. And so my mindset was that if everything that I buy cash flows and the world goes to hell again, I'm still making cash. So I really haven't lost money yet. And what I personally need is cash flow. It doesn't matter to me if you tell me I'm worth $100,000 or $10 million. If I don't have cash flow to pay my bills because I don't have a paycheck, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. So how did you get into multifamily then? What changed your mind?
So I got to a point, not having a job, I could borrow up to a certain amount of houses, and then it got a lot more difficult. And so I thought to myself, I should jump from here over to passive investing, because the requirements to do that are through just the SEC requirements and the requirements of lifestyles in the lead. So it's much easier to do that. And so I started studying, and I started selling off a house here, taking the money from that and investing it in multifamily deals.
So let me just read off some of these numbers here for folks. I wrote these down because I knew I couldn't remember them. We've got a 36 unit apartment complex in Sacramento, California, a 252 unit in Atlanta, Georgia, another 242 units in Atlanta, Georgia, a 368 unit in Tucson, total 1,138 units. That's quite a few units. How many years did it take to get into these 4 apartment complexes?
About 18 months, about a year and a half. So
Okay.
I was, at first when I started learning about it, I started to get excited, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get into a deal. I mean, I was like a lot of people that I meet nowadays. And one of the mentors said, relax, take a deep breath, read about a couple of investments, read their PPMs first, and then you'll know better what you're doing. Don't just go out and jump into the first deal that you find. And so I took his advice, thank God, and I, read a few PPMs. And I'm a big numbers person, so I was doing a lot of research about different markets across the country and what cities had good rent growth and good vacancy, good employment growth. And so I picked those cities on purpose, and I contacted leads in those cities. And so once I started going and it started to pay off, I started selling more houses and raising more capital.
Now, I noticed that you're diversified across different cities, different states. Was that by choice? Did you think there was a benefit to being diversified geographically?
I um, I feel it is definitely a benefit. I wanted to invest in Phoenix because I really believed in the market, but at that point, we didn't have any leads that had a deal that I could get into, and so I started looking at the numbers, and I went, okay, this city is good, and I really like this lead, so those two things match up. So when that became an opportunity, that's where I went.
So I always ask people, do you pick the jockey or the horse, the jockey being the lead investor, the horse being the deal? You're talking about picking a third thing, the ground that the horse ran on, and the jockey. Those are the two choices you were looking at?
Yeah, those are my two choices. And the reason being is I did invest in some stocks before I got hurt. And the one thing I did learn is don't fight the ocean. And so if the tide's coming in and it's going up, then all the boats go up with it. So if you've got a city and it's on the side of the bell curve that is showing growth, then you should probably try to ride that growth if you want to increase the value of the property. So if the rent is growing and the value of everything is growing and they have a ton of employment, and that's what drives growth, then that would be a good place to invest, in my opinion.
So you've moved yourself along. You're successful at single family and at multifamily. What's next? What do you see happening in the future?
Well, right now, as you know, I'm the ambassador for Phoenix. So I put together all the events here. I help Lifestyles with the 1 day, the 2 day, and then I put together road trips and tours of apartments. And I love doing that. And I think eventually down the road, in a year or two, I'll try to lead a deal. But right now, I'm doing what I love doing. I love to help people. I was a nurse, and one of the best feelings is walking away from your job going, I really had a difference in somebody else's life today. And I honestly feel what I'm doing now with interviewing with you and with helping people as an ambassador, I feel like I could help somebody and change their life. I mean, if they look at me and they think, well, if that guy in a wheelchair can do it, then anybody can do it. And then good, that's what I want. I want them to feel like I should get off the couch and do something instead of coming home and watching TV after work for 4 hours and then going to bed.
Absolutely. Don't let anybody say you're just another pretty face.
Yeah, that's true.
So, man, you've done a great job with the ambassadors. We really appreciate that. In fact, you've got 300 some people that came to one of your meetings or one of our meetings out there. I'm not sure how that was all set up, but it surprised me that many. You might hit a tipping point out there, huh? Do you have any idea how long it's going to be before you think you hit that tipping point where you might be like a small market like San Antonio? Because, we did Houston, had thousands of members. We did Dallas, we had thousands of members. We hit San Antonio, and we only had hundreds of members because it was a smaller town. But then it grew and grew and grew and grew, and then grew into Austin. And so if you're like Phoenix, then you grow into Tucson, and then pretty soon you've got a whole giant group of people that's large enough to be a localized market / office for us someday in the future. How long do you see that tipping, or how long do you feel like it'd be before that tipping point occurs out there?
In my opinion, I mean, I don't work for Lifestyles, but in my opinion, with the rate that we're growing right now, I think at the most a year. And the reason being is the more people that know about it, and the more they learn, and the more they look behind the curtain like I did, the more they figure out that it is really just a group of honest, hardworking people that are like-minded and they have the same goals that you have, helping each other. The more they hear about that, the more they tell their friends, and the more join, and it just starts to snowball. And I feel that's what happened. We went from 3 people to 25 people to 70 people, and now I'm having to rent out spaces in a baseball stadium, so I can have enough people on a road trip. And I really feel like it's an inspiration to a lot of people, and the more we inspire, the more join. And so I feel like there's a very large amount of growth in the Phoenix market.
Well, Peter, I've always said leaders go places no one's ever gone before and send back maps. I think you're one of those leaders. You're inspiring. You've inspired me. I use your inspiration all the time in my life, almost on a regular basis. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate what you've done for us here at Lifestyles. I look forward to your personal growth and to your market growth out there. And I want to make sure that everybody knows, are you starting your own YouTube channel also?
I am. I've recorded a couple episodes, and I've started editing it, and some people from Lifestyles and you, of course, are helping me, and it should be up and running within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And you can find it just by going to YouTube and searching Peter Nearman Real Estate and Inspirational Speeches.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you coming on today, Peter. And thank your crew over there. We know behind the scenes there's a lot of stuff going on over there. Thank you, crew, and everyone else. Appreciate you coming on, and have a wonderful day.
No problem. Thank you, Del.